Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for another series of Lunch with the Boxer. Today, we do have our financial aid office. We have Leslie Limper and Cassie Copeland here, who's going to give us a quick presentation about financial aid and scholarships. And then we'll go ahead and get some of those questions answered for you. Before we do hop on, we did also have our Dean, Sarah Phillips, back here today with us, and she's actually going to go ahead and address a few of the questions that were answered, a couple of questions that were asked a few weeks prior, and so we just wanted to bring in everybody and allow Sarah to go ahead and address some of those questions. So if we can get Sarah on to get started here, and I'm going to unmute you, Sarah, here, and then we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. Hi. I'm very happy to be here. Welcome to my office. I wanted to just take a minute as we're getting started to talk to you a little bit about next fall. I know that you all are anxious about it. I am too. I know that nobody likes a sense of uncertainty. We all just want to know what's going to happen for sure and be done with it. I get that. I feel that same way too. So what I want to tell you is that we are having college in the fall, no matter what. It is my plan and my hope that we are going to be doing that in our classrooms just like we always do. If for some reason we can't do that, we're going to adjust so that your students don't fall behind. Everyone will stay on track. We will make sure that we take care of everyone. That part is not a question. One of the advantages of being at a small school is there's a real difference between a university that has 400 students in a classroom and a university that has 20 students in a classroom. If we have to spread students out, we can spread them out. If there's a rule that says you can't have more than 40 students in a classroom at a time, and I have 40 students in a classroom, I'll make another class, right? That's what we do. And that's one of the true advantages of a small school. So I just wanted you to feel reassured that we are absolutely committed to your students and to their college experience, and we're not going to let something bad happen or people fall behind. I do, because I am a dean of a liberal arts college, I do have to take 1 second to point out to you all that, if there was ever an argument for liberal arts education, it is this pandemic. Yes, we certainly need virologists and biologists to understand the virus, but that isn't enough, right? We need politicians to understand how nations are responding. We need mathematicians to map out the spread, right? And how what does it mean if a virus spreads exponentially? We need historians to tell us what we've done in the past, right? You've seen a lot of talk about, the Spanish flu in the past. We need philosophers and ethicists to help us with our, with some extraordinarily difficult decision making, whether it's around who gets a ventilator or just something as simple as what we're talking about. When can we get back to college, right? We need artists, right? I don't know if you all have noticed, you've been on YouTube or wherever, the extraordinary music that you're seeing everywhere, right? Art helps us both express our fear and our anxiety and our hope, right? And there's an extraordinary level of hope, right, in the world also, and we see that through the arts. So I just wanted to point that out to you. So as you're thinking about it, right, think about how that is the kind of education that we do, right, at a liberal arts college, is we educate students to have an impact in the world. And the world is a complicated place. It's not one thing, same as the pandemic. And so that's what I wanted to say as you all are getting started. I'm going to turn it over to financial aid, but I will stay on here if there are questions that come up as we go along. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Have a good video lunch. I don't know if anybody's eating, but there you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I know we have a couple of questions that are popping up, so we will go ahead and get those addressed for you guys. But I did want to hop in and bring in financial aid, as this is kind of their session here. And so we have Leslie Limper, our Director of Financial Aid, who is going to do a quick presentation. And then we have Cassie Copeland, who's also a financial advisor, who's been working with many of you families here as well. So a quick presentation, and then we'll jump into questions. Once again, if you have questions, go ahead and put it in the chat if you feel comfortable with sending me a private chat. I'm Gina, by the way. I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. So you can send the chat privately to me, and I'll be going through the questions and monitoring them. If you guys can please change your name to a full name, though, so that way we are able to follow up with any questions that we can't. We'd greatly appreciate it. So without further ado, if we can go ahead and bring in Leslie, I have it, so you can go ahead and start sharing your financial aid questions or your presentation here. That would be great. So we'll just give it a couple minutes here. Leslie, I think you might be on mute. Could you check your mic?
Okay, how about now?
You're perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. And are you seeing the financial aid presentation?
Yes, we can see the slide.
Excellent. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I have just a quick presentation today to share with you. The one thing that I want everyone to know is that we're here. This is the Financial Aid Bunch. And so we are working remotely, and we are here for you. Not only are we here, but we're here to help. And the financial aid office is physically closed, but we are working remotely from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. And what we're doing is we're really taking questions or getting in contact with students by email. And so our financial aid email is financialaid.pacificu.edu. Or you can contact your individual counselor by email. And then if you need to have a conversation with someone, that can happen too. We're giving people a call and meeting in every way except physically. And so if you have a question that just seems too, big to put into email, just email us and we'll set up a time to give you a call. With the current situation, we are very happy to have our Boxer Online portal so that you can get up-to-date financial aid information through our Boxer Online financial aid self-service. And if you have not yet set up a self-service account, we recommend that you do that. When you were admitted, you got an email that told you how to set up a Boxer Online account. You can kind of go back through those emails. If you don't have that email or just don't know what to do, you can email help, H-E-L-P, at pacificu.edu. Tell them that you need to set up a Boxer Online account and they will help you do so. If you have set up a Boxer Online account, or when you do, you really need to check and make sure that your 2020-21 application is actually complete. And what I'm going to do is show you some screens here, kind of walk you through our Boxer Online portal so that you'll know what to look for. When you first log in to the Boxer Online, or excuse me, when you first log in to Boxer Online at pacificu.edu, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see the Boxer Online portal, and the login is right here. So if you just click on that login and use your student or your password, your login name and password, excuse me, and again, you can get those if you don't have them by emailing our help desk. Once you log in to Boxer Online, you will see this screen, and this is kind of the welcome screen. Right in the middle of the screen is the financial aid section. And if you click on this link, Manage My Financial Aid, that will take you right into our financial aid self-service portal. This is what's going to come up when you go into that financial aid portal. You're going to get a welcome to financial aid, and it is going to have the information that you need to help finalize your financial aid questions and answer a lot of your questions that you may have about your financial aid package. If you hover over the financial aid menu right here, hover your mouse over the financial aid menu, it's going to open up a drop-down menu that will go to a variety of different places. You can also get to each of the different places by clicking on these links. This is what we call your checklist, and each of these are links that will take you to another part of the financial aid portal. So, and there's also a drop-down box. So if you spend 4 years at Pacific, you will have 4 years worth of financial aid here, and you'll be able to go back and forth and access past years, and our current students are just getting ready to access their financial aid package for next year. This is the financial aid self-service checklist, and so for most of you, what will come up is the 2021 academic year, because that's probably all of the information that you have submitted so far is for the coming academic year. You can see that the checklist is either green or yellow, and so if it's green, it means that you've completed that step. You don't need to worry about that anymore. If it's yellow, it means that you have some other things that you need to do to finalize your financial aid. This example shows that this person needs to complete some required documents. There's a variety of different ways to get to see those documents. You can either, again, use the menu up at the top. You can click on this complete required documents here, or down here in the action needed, you can click on that link for required documents. Also, this is the opening or the home page of financial aid self-service. There's also some links over here that will be very helpful as you finalize your financial aid. One of the things that we will need when your student enrolls is a privacy release form. Right now, we can talk to parents about their students' eligibility, but once they actually enroll in classes, the student is covered by what's called FERPA. Those are regulations, those are federal privacy regulations that says that we can't talk to parents unless we have a student's release. So there's a privacy release form. Parents, if you want to plan ahead, you can have your student fill out one of those prior to them enrolling, and then we'll be able to continue our conversations. We're going to talk about the PLUS loan a little bit later, but here's a link to the PLUS loan application. There's also a link to some private loan options that we're going to talk about later. And right here is a secure document upload. And so if you actually need to provide us with any information, say your tax returns, we recommend not emailing those. We recommend using our secure document upload so that you maintain your privacy. Again, on this first page, you'll be able to see who your financial aid counselor is. So one of our financial aid counselors is Stacy England. She works with families whose last name begins with M through Z. Cassie Copeland, who is also on this call with me, works with undergraduate students whose last names begin with A through Z. And so your financial aid counselor, their phone number is right here. There you will actually get a recorded voicemail right now because we're not in the office that asks you to email. And if you click on this Contact Financial Aid Counselor, that will open up an email to send to your financial aid counselor. And there's this link throughout the self-service where you can click on that link to open up an email. So we're going to take a look at the required documents page. If you click on required documents, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see all of the documents that are incomplete. If you send us a document and we've reviewed it, it will then turn green and it will say completed. So in many cases, or in some cases, I shouldn't say many cases, in some cases about 30% of applicants, financial aid applicants, are selected for a process called verification by the FAFSA processors, which means that we have to verify the information on the FAFSA. So we've listed those things that an individual student would need. Maybe one student doesn't always need the same thing as another student. And so we've listed here very individually what a student may need, and we've provided links with additional information or the actual form that you would need. So you would click on that link to get more information. If you don't know what a tax return transcript is, if you click on that link, that will give you information about getting that document. If you click on the parents' household information link, that will take you to a form that you can download and fill out and complete for us and return it. All of these things, if you don't understand what you need to do, we're here to help. Again, you can email financial aid and just say, you know, I have this required document and I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. Could you help me? And we'll walk you through that process. So you don't have to navigate this all by yourself. Then the next step you'll go through is you will look at your financial aid and you'll decide which awards you want to accept. Now, financial aid is kind of like a buffet. You can leave the things you don't want, you can accept the things, you can take the things that you do want. Most all students want the scholarships and grants, and so we expect that you'll be accepting those. But if you don't want to accept things like work study or loans, you certainly don't have to. And so what you're going to do is go through each of these individual awards and either accept or decline these awards. Now you'll see that these scholarships that Pacific has offered are in a pending status, and that means once you go in and accept that award, that status will turn to accepted. Again, up in the corner, you can contact your financial aid counselor, open an email. If you see something on that page that you don't understand, just open an email, send us an email, and we can clarify anything that you need. So once you accept all of the pending financial aid, again, that will turn to accepted. If you need to turn in some required documents, like you're one of the lucky ones who was selected for verification, some of the awards might be listed as estimated. So for example, the federal Pell Grant, until we get the required documents that we need to finalize that will be listed as estimated. You cannot accept estimated awards. You can view it, you can see the details, but you're not going to be able to accept those until they're actually finalized. Once they are finalized, once you've submitted the required documentation, we will email you and let you know, and you will go on there and you'll see that all of those statuses have changed from pending or from estimated to pending. Again, you can view the loans. You can decide if you want to accept a loan or not accept a loan once that's in that pending status. Then your checklist is going to tell you to sign your award letter. So there's basically a two-step process to accepting financial aid. You'll go on and you'll accept every individual award that you want to accept or decline. Then you'll go to this accept your award letter, and it will bring up all of your award letters in history. So if you want to know, if you want to compare, for example, if you get a revision from us and we send you an email and say your financial aid has been revised, you can go on here and you can see every single award letter that we have ever sent to you. And you can compare those and figure out what has changed in your financial aid package. So this is what the award letter looks like. Again, you can contact your financial aid counselor right up here by an email. This will actually, the award letter will actually scroll down and will list everything that you've accepted, and will ask you to read and agree to the terms and conditions of the award. And I really recommend students, you read those conditions, you understand what your obligations are in accepting financial aid. This section right down here at the bottom will tell you what your budget is. If you click see details, that will tell you your exact tuition and fees. If you're living on campus, your room and board, what we estimate for books and supplies, personal expenses, and transportation. This will tell you your expected family contribution. That's just transferred there from the FAFSA. And this will tell you your need and what we have on record as your housing status. So, important stuff. Students, check your email. This is how we are communicating with you. We are communicating through email. We don't really have the technology right now in the financial aid office to communicate with you via text, and so you'll be getting emails from us. Parents, please remind your students to check their emails. Some students are better about this than others, I know, but really we do communicate a lot of information through email. Also, make sure that you set up a Boxer Online account. Again, that email, if you need help setting that up, is help, HELP@pacificu.edu. Paper award letters, right now, if your financial aid changes for any reason, either we receive a new FAFSA or you send us some additional information, we are sending paper award letters. Those, we will cease to do that after May 1st. And so we will put all of the change notifications online on that Boxer Online financial aid self-service portal. And we will send you an email that says your financial aid has been revised. Please go on to Boxer Online self-service and look at the changes. You can also use the Boxer Online financial aid self-service portal for reporting any outside scholarships you will receive. And you probably don't know about all of those yet, but as the summer progresses and you receive additional outside scholarships, you are required to report those to the financial aid office. And you can use the financial aid self-service portal to do that. It's a very easy process. And you will note that when you do sign your financial aid award letter, that one of the conditions is that you will report all outside scholarships that you receive to the financial aid office. The federal student loan processing for next academic year will begin on April 27th at studentaid.gov. If you go on to studentaid.gov now, you'll only be able to look at loan information or do any processing information for the 1920 academic year starting April 27th. They'll have that opened up for the 2021 academic year. So if you accept, for example, a direct loan in your financial aid package, your checklist will tell you that there are additional steps that are needed to finalize that loan, and will tell you the links to go to. That process, again, will start April 27th. So I know that you all have lots of questions. We're going to try and answer them today. There are a few answers to those questions. A lot of those questions are not going to have answers yet. We will get you answers as soon as we know what those are. One of the questions that we're getting a lot is my family's financial circumstances have changed. What should I do? We're going to talk about that. Will there be a tuition reduction if classes are online in the fall? Probably. Sarah can address that in the question and answers. But that is an area that we don't know a lot about yet. Can I still get my scholarships and other financial aid if I defer admission? I do want to say that in this kind of different year, we cannot guarantee anything. We do not know what's going to happen for next year. And so if you defer admission, what you'll need to do is go through the financial aid application process again and apply for those scholarships again. And where can I get more information? Again, please get in contact with either your admission counselor or the financial aid office. We are here to help. That's what we do. So for changing circumstances, I just want to assure everyone that changing circumstances will be taken into consideration. And right now, you know, uncertainty abounds. You're unsure about the future. Pacific is trying to find resources to help families in both continuing and entering student families. Federal regulations do require that any adjustments that we make to the FAFSA formula be documented for any federal or state funding. And so we're really looking at all of those different pieces that are going to go into this puzzle. And so we have determined that we're going to be able to begin the reevaluation process for the next academic year on June 1st. That's going to give us some time to get some information put together, figure out what we can do for families, and figure out what the process is going to be. Now, this isn't a deadline. Don't take it as a deadline. This is where when we're going to begin reevaluations. And we suspect that that's going to be an ongoing process into the academic year, because families don't know what their changing circumstances are going to be. You may have a job now, you may not later on. And so I want to assure everyone that that reevaluation process will extend into the academic year. And so there's no deadline to get those special circumstances to our office. If families are looking for additional resources, I do want to tell you about a few resources that are available. The Direct Parent Plus Loan Program is a federal program, and this is one of our most popular programs. A lot of our families do use this. I have 2 boys that went through college, and I am very familiar with the Direct Parent Plus Loan Program, I have to say. Parents can borrow up to the cost of attendance less any financial aid. And so if there's a gap between the financial aid and what Pacific's costs are, you can cover that, either all or a portion of it, with the Direct Parent Plus Loan. The interest rate is going to be set on July 1st, 2020. That's set every year. And so currently the interest rate is 7.08%. I suspect with interest rates kind of going down that the interest rate for the 2021 academic year may go down a little bit. The application for the Direct Parent Plus Loan is available at studentaid.gov. What you'll do is you'll use your FSA ID, that's the ID that you got when you filed that FAFSA, to log into studentaid.gov and access that application. The Plus Loan is credit-based, but it's the absence of negative credit. It's not necessarily based on your credit score, but just the absence of any negative credit. Payments can be deferred until your student is no longer enrolled, and there is a standard 10-year repayment plan. However, there are a number of different repayment plans that families can choose depending upon how much they have borrowed. And so those payment plans can be extended or shortened depending upon what you need for your individual family circumstance. The interest payments may be tax deductible. This is I love it every year when I go in and put the interest rate the interest that I've paid on my Parent Plus loans into my TurboTax and see that tax rate go down. So that's a perk of the loan. There are additional, if you're not interested in borrowing as a parent, there are additional resources for students. Those are generally private alternative loans. Students can borrow through private lenders. However, there's a caveat there. students, an 18-year-old will generally need a creditworthy cosigner. And so parents are usually needing to sign as a cosigner for students who are borrowing. The good thing is that if you look at the different alternative loans, is that cosigners can generally be released after 24 months of consecutive on-time payments. So there is an option once the student has started paying back that loan for the cosigner to be released. By law, Pacific University cannot recommend a lender. That is, the feds are very strict with us about that. We do have a product on our website that's called Fast Choice, and I've given you the link here. And also, if you go onto our website, there's a link. Also, if you remember that landing page of the financial aid self-service also has a link that will take you to this Fast Choice product. And it kind of walks you through what is involved in an alternative loan and what you need to, the things you need to consider. For example, not just the interest rate, but repayment options and grace periods, particularly if your student is planning to go on to a graduate education. You need to make sure that all of those, because those loans are all different, offered by different private lenders, you need to make sure that all of those, that criteria meets what you're looking for. You may have heard in the news lately, and we were getting a lot of questions about this, about the Federal CARES Act. And there is some federal legislation that was just passed that provides funds to institutions to use for direct grants to students. Now, those funds are distributed, have to be distributed to enrolled students, but we have, and they have to be used for expenses related to the COVID-19 disruptions. But we have a year to spend those funds, and we're going to be looking very carefully at students who do have additional expenses related to these disruptions. And so I don't want you to think that Pacific is holding back on these funds. We are going to be distributing them to students. How we distribute them and when is still one of those questions that remain unanswered. But we are committed to helping our students through this, this stressful time. So Cassie, I'm going to ask you, if you're there, to say a little bit about our social media. Are you there, Cassie?
Can you hear me?
A little bit louder.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I run the social media for our office, and we are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Pacific Youth and Aid. So what we're doing on social media is posting a lot of outside scholarship opportunities. So if you're looking for more ways to get some extra money for school, that's a great place to look. We also post reminders about Pacific scholarships. So when you're a student here at Pacific, we share our opportunities there for how you can get some additional funding. Also just announcements on when financial aid is dispersing, important deadlines, and also some important next steps on how to make sure you're successful at Pacific. So that's a great way to stay in touch with our office.
Thanks, Cassie. Okay, here's some additional resources. The website that I mentioned before, studentaid.gov, does have information about the coronavirus and what's happening with federal student aid. Many of you may have student loans already. Parents, you may have borrowed for other students who are in college. One of the things that is happening right now is that student loan payments all student loans have been put in forbearance, and students are not having to make those payments if they have entered repayments. And parents are not having to make payments right now on PLUS loans. Plus, all the interest has been set to zero for until September 30th. And so there are some things that the federal government is doing to help students. We also have our own coronavirus website at Pacific, and I've given you the address there that kind of helps keep you in touch with what's going on generally at Pacific. And of course, the Pacific Financial Aid Office, we try and keep students up to date with the latest information that is available. Again, please email us at financialaid@pacificu.edu. We're here to help. We hope to hear from you and get all of your questions answered. And so now, I think that Gina is going to help get some of your questions answered right here. Cassie and I are available, and I believe that Sarah is available. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Gina, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Leslie. You've answered a lot of the questions that had already come through. So we're very, very grateful for that. I'm going to go ahead and start on some of the questions that were kind of in that pre-registration form that I had spoken about. So the first one on here is, are there any May scholarships available for students?
Right now, we have pretty much gone through all of the scholarships. And so there are no applications that can be submitted right now. Most of the financial aid packages are pretty set. And so if you do need additional funding, the only way would be through the special circumstances form and contacting our office that way.
Okay, great. And the talent awards and scholarship selection, has that all been handed out? Have they been awarded? And what is the form of communication of whether or not they've received that scholarship?
The talent awards have all been made, although I will say we just finished up probably the last group yesterday. We did have some last minute additions, and so those students are in the process of being notified right now. If you do have any questions about your application and you have not heard, please don't hesitate to send us an email at financialaid@pacificu.edu, and we'll get you an answer from that. Our departments have been, our faculty who choose those scholarships have been working pretty hard to get those announcements made. However, I do have to say they're also dealing with having to put all of their courses online, and with our current students who also have some needs. And so we haven't maybe been as quite as responsive as we would have been if things had remained kind of normal.
Perfect, thank you. And this is kind of a two-part question about work study. When can students apply for work study? Is it going to be the same timeline or different timeline with kind of normal students and student athletes? So when can they apply for that? And if they accept work study but decide to not use that work study, what happens to that?
Okay, the first thing is that if we are back on campus in the fall, that's how I'll answer this question. We do have, for students who have been awarded federal work study, we do have what's called a job and service fair, and that's usually the first week of classes in the fall. And students, we get all of the employers together, students go around, kind of figure out what jobs are available and you know, what they want to do, and that's the way, and they connect with employers that way. We also have a website for students who want to take a look and see what kinds of jobs are available. I mentioned getting your Boxer Online login. Once you have your Boxer Online login, you'll be able to go to our website that tells you what jobs are available and kind of take a look at those. There's usually not a lot listed on the website throughout the summer. Usually when people start coming back for fall, they start thinking about, ooh, who do I need to hire and what students do I need? And usually probably about a week before school starts, they'll start posting their job openings that are available. So you'll start seeing some activities close to the start of school on that website. And so students come to the Job and Service Fair. We have a career development office that helps students, if they can't find jobs, to find jobs on campus. And so we kind of walk through students through that process. I can't tell you what's going to happen if we are online in the fall. That's one of those unanswered questions, but we will certainly be communicating with how students can still get that resource if they are not on campus in the fall. That's one of the decisions that needs to be made. What we do is we recommend that you do, if you're thinking about you might want to work, we recommend going ahead and accepting the Federal Work Study Award on your financial aid package. That does not commit you to working. We have a lot of students who accept that award. If they don't get a job, they just don't get that money. And when we're awarding work study, we anticipate that. We know how many students approximately are going to decide not to work. And so, that's all part of our calculations. And so, but we do recommend that if you do want to work, you go ahead and accept that, because that's how we're going to communicate with you about work that is available. And if you've accepted an award, you're going to get information. If you don't end up using it, nothing happens, you just don't get that money. Because work study is paid directly to the student for hours worked. And so if you have our standard work study award is $3,000, if you have a $3,000 federal work study award, you don't get that money until you actually work. Your supervisor turns in a timesheet for you, and you get paid every 2 weeks by our HR department. If you don't have to work. Some students accept it and decide, ooh, I have too many classes for fall semester, and then decide to work spring semester. So it's pretty flexible. But if you do decide, or if you do think that you might want to work, go ahead and accept that. It's not going to hurt anything.
Perfect, thank you. And this has come up a few times. When can students or parents apply for those Parent Plus loans or the student supplemental loans? Is there like an opening for an application deadline, or when does that kind of process happen?
There's no application deadline to apply for either the direct Parent Plus loan or alternative loans. They will start being available and accepting applications on April 27th. And for the Parent Plus loan, they do run a credit check at the time that the parent applies, but that credit check is good for 180 days. And so you can apply anytime after April 27th, and you'll know whether you're eligible to get that loan based on credit. The deadline to apply is generally around the 1st of August, because it's going to take about 2 weeks to get all of the financing in place. So you apply either for the Direct Plus loan or an alternative loan. That information comes to us. We certify that you're going to be a student. That information goes back to whoever you applied through. And so that whole process takes a couple of weeks. Our first payment is due August 15th for fall. And so if you apply by August 1st, everything is in place. We know that money is coming, and that will be, reflected on your August 15th bill. So usually, like I said, a couple of weeks for processing. So if you do everything by August 1st, you should be good.
Awesome. And the next question that we have here is, for those families who have already accepted our financial aid online, but maybe got awarded some outside scholarships, what do they do with the next steps process? Do they let financial aid know of the outside scholarships, and they have to go back and re-accept, or what are the steps for getting those added to their account?
You do not have to go back and accept the outside scholarships. What we will do is, if you've already accepted all of your financial aid, you'll just go into the financial aid self-service portal. There is a link that says report outside scholarships. So if you just hover your cursor over that menu, there'll be a link that you can select to report outside scholarships. What you do is you put in each of your outside scholarships and submit that. That comes directly to us. Then we let you know if that is going to affect your financial aid package at all. Now, outside scholarships, most of the time do not affect a financial aid package. They're just additional money that you can use. Some of the federal programs do require us to change your eligibility for federal programs. So for example, you might not qualify for federal work study, or your federal direct subsidized loan might move to being an unsubsidized loan. So a lot of the federal funds we don't have any control over. And so sometimes it can change students' eligibility for federal funds. It will not change your eligibility for Pacific scholarships. And unless you get a whole lot of money, it probably isn't going to change your eligibility for need-based grants. So generally what it means is you have to work less and you have to borrow less.
Awesome, thank you. And if for the FAFSA verification, how do they know if they've gotten selected? But does that happen at the front end of things, or can they get flagged for verification later on?
There's a couple of ways that you'll know if you've selected for verification. So when you get your student aid report back, so once you file the FAFSA, you get an email. If you provided your email address, you would get an email from the FAFSA processors. That email would have told you that you were selected for verification and to contact your school. You don't have to go back and look at that email, look for that email, because you probably filed your FAFSA way back in October. If you go on to the required documents page, we will tell you if there's anything that you need to provide to finalize your eligibility. And so that's the other way, is to look in that financial aid self-portal or self-service portal. And if you have required documents, it probably means you were selected for verification.
Awesome. And then the next series of questions kind of falls under like the payments, and do they have to pay everything all at once in August, or can they be made up in payments? How does the payment work for school?
Sure. There's a couple of different ways that you can pay. Of course, we'll take all of your money at once, but most students don't plan to do that. The standard plan is, the default plan is that you pay by semester. And so there is a payment due for fall semester that is due August 15th, and there's a payment due for spring semester that's due January 15th. And of course, that's after all of your credit for financial aid. That's the standard plan. Some families, we do have a monthly payment plan. Some families like to set up a monthly payment plan and pay that way. If you want to do that, that information is on the business office website, and you'll be sent information once you submit your admission deposit. You'll be sent information about the monthly payment plan. And so there's a couple of options to do that. Some families, decide to take out maybe the PLUS loan, and so pay, a part of it using the PLUS loan. And if you apply for that, like I said, by August 1st, we'll know that you're going to do that, and we'll calculate that into your balance. Those funds aren't actually dispersed until you are enrolled, until the student is enrolled. And so if you have any questions about payment options, again, contact the financial aid office or admissions, and we can send you the direct links to the payment plan that we use.
Is there a deadline for students to accept the financial aid offers that Pacific has given them?
There isn't a deadline, so if you don't accept it, it's not going to go away. We do recommend, however, that you, let me rephrase that. If you pay your admission deposit, it's not going to go away. So if we know that you're coming and are going to use financial aid, there's no deadline to accept your financial aid package. The only thing is if you don't accept that, that's not going to show up on your bill that you get from the business office in a lot of cases. And so, so what you'll want to do is, once you decide, and you've deposited, go in there and accept that financial aid package. What I would say is probably you need to have everything accepted by August 1st so that you don't have any problem, once you get to school, that your bill isn't paid.
Awesome. And so we have a couple questions about the books and lab fees, and somebody had heard purchasing a laptop for school can be rolled in with financial aid. Can you go into a little bit of detail on kind of the extra outside costs?
The 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 extra costs, I would suspect that there's not going to be for freshmen very many additional costs. There's very few classes that have additional costs associated with them. Some of our outdoor leadership courses, if you take a skiing course on Mount Hood, that kind of thing, there are some additional charges that you may incur. But basically, your tuition is going to cover most of your fees, and I can't think of any additional ones that you might have other than medical insurance. We do require all students to be covered through medical insurance, and so you will be automatically billed for medical insurance. If you are covered by your parents' policy, you have to actively waive that. And so that's probably one of the biggest sources of confusion is families seeing that they've been charged for medical insurance. Just know that there is a waiver process and that you can waive that medical insurance. As far as computers, we do recommend that students obviously have a computer or access to a computer. We have a lot of computer labs on campus that students can use, but sometimes it's helpful for them to have their own. You are eligible for additional loan funds. If you're not already taking out the maximum loan, you are eligible for additional loan funds to help cover the cost of a computer. So for example, if parents want to borrow under the Parent Plus loan to cover a cost of the computer, or students can always check with our office to see if they're eligible for additional financial aid to cover the cost of a computer.
Right. And then for the Parent Plus loans, when they do accept them, do they ask for the full amount before August 15th, or is it recommended to do it per semester? How does that work?
You do apply for the Parent Plus loan for the year. And so, but only for that academic year. So for example, you would figure out how much you would need for the whole academic year and apply for that amount.
Okay, perfect. And there's a direct loan entrance counseling and signing the direct loan master promissory note. Where do they go to do all of that?
You will go to a website called studentaid.gov. And again, if you click on that first page, if you click on the checklist, that's where it's going to take you to the studentaid.gov website. You will use your FSA ID, which is your ID that you got, ID and password which you got. That's what you use to file the FAFSA, to log into that website. And then it's pretty easy to find out where to do that. And so you'll go ahead and do that. Again, you cannot do that until after April 27th.
Okay, perfect. And then, so the next question, you've kind of already touched on it during your presentation. It's about students who maybe want to defer, stay home and take a gap semester and then come in the spring. If they do defer, how does the scholarship get reimbursed? Do they get to keep it, or do they have to reapply for scholarships?
If you do defer, you do have to, for example, if you received any talent awards, anything like that, you would need to re-audition or go through that reapplication process. Again, we are not, because of the circumstances, we're just not sure what financial aid is going to look like next year. We're certainly going to have it. But whether the scholarship amount changes or there's different criteria, that's kind of an unknown at this time. And so if you do defer, just know that you have to reapply for financial aid, and you'll be considered for scholarships based on the criteria that we're using for the 21-22 academic year.
Okay. So this is a question from a local student. Now that Portland Public Schools have gone into grading the final semesters as pass, no pass, and I know this is the same for most high schools. Will financial aid awards be recalculated or changed?
Right, no. The financial aid awards right now are set. And so anything that happens from now on going forward, changes in GPA or anything will not affect your financial aid. We'll guarantee all of our scholarships um, for students, that the ones that they currently have.
Perfect. And if there are changes to the family financial circumstances, I know you said that we're looking starting June 1st. So what do they do in the meantime right now? Are there any certain documents that they need to submit for that? How does the kind of, letting us know there's a change, what are the steps for that?
Sure. What I would recommend if you have had changes in your financial circumstances, we do like to look at your individual circumstances and not make any assumptions about the situation. And so it kind of looks different for everyone. And so what we do recommend is you getting in contact with us now, letting us know what your circumstances are and what you anticipate happening. And that way we can let you know exactly what we would need. In many cases, we do ask for a tax return, or sometimes we ask for W-2 statements, or sometimes we ask for, just depending upon your circumstance, it could be a lot of things. So we're taking into consideration, basically what your unique individual circumstances are. So we can, if you email us now, we can let you know what information you can be working on to get together to send us for any reconsideration. So definitely do get in contact with us now. We probably won't be able to, do anything until starting June 1st, but we can at least get the process started and get the information from you.
Perfect, thank you. And I know you touched a little bit on the medical insurance, so that brought up a couple of questions. What's the cost of Pacific's medical insurance, and how do they waive it if they want to?
Okay, the cost of medical insurance, and I might have to get Cassie to help me with this, because after I know what it originally was, but it went down after I heard the first. Cassie, are you online and can tell me what medical insurance is?
I'm trying to find next year's amount. Give me 1 second.
While we're waiting on the cost, can you let us know if they do fall under like their family insurance, how that waiver happens?
Sure. And so the medical insurance is all charged for fall semester. And so you pay for the entire year, the entire academic year upfront. And so that would be due August 15th. If you are covered by your parents' insurance or an insurance plan, all you have to do is go online. There is a waiver process that's not available yet. But when you get your invoice, usually we send out invoices for fall semester right after July 4th. So around the first week of July. When you get your invoice, there will be a website where you will go to. We will give you a website to go to waive the medical insurance. Basically, you just go in, you put in your information about your medical insurance and ask for us to waive our portion. And so it's a pretty easy process. It just, if you're not looking at the whole bill though, you can sometimes miss it. That's why I like to bring it up.
Perfect, thank you. So I don't know if Cassie was able to get that number. If not, then we can make sure that we can email it out to you. Do you have it?
The cost for medical insurance next year is $3,008.
$3,008. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So yes, students can get that waived. We're kind of winding down. There are a few questions that are a little bit more specific to the individual student, and so I won't bring those questions up here just because we want to ensure that this is the time for general questions. One of those other questions was for students who decide to maybe stay home and attend a community college closer to home, and they want to transfer it afterwards. What happens to the scholarships that they've received already? Do they lose scholarships as an incoming transfer student?
Yes, if you decide not to attend Pacific for the 2021 academic year and go to a community college or go to a different school, then you do lose your financial aid eligibility. And so you would come in as a transfer student, and we do have different scholarships available for transfer students. So it's not that you don't get any scholarship. Our transfer students are considered a little bit differently than our freshmen, and we do look at transfer students. We do look at the transfer GPA, and that is one of the pieces that determines the scholarship amount for transfers.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think we're going to ask our last question, and it's actually geared more towards Sarah. I know Sarah said she was going to stay on and hop in here. So Sarah, the question, and I know you've kind of already answered the question before, but will students be living in the dorm rooms in the fall when they come in?
Hi. Certainly that is my hope. I don't know for sure. Those are the plans that we're making, right? We are going through a housing lottery. We are assigning students to rooms. If we have to adjust, we will adjust. If I had to guess what might some of those sorts of adjustments be, we may have to have single rooms rather than doubles, that sort of thing. So, but right now we're assigning students to rooms, and we're planning for them to be in them.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. And one last question that I'll be able to answer for everybody. What is the final deadline to commit to Pacific? It has been extended out from May 1st out to June 1st. June 1st is the commitment deadline. And again, our counselors, all the admissions counselors are here to help you. If you have any questions that weren't answered, and I know there were a few here, so I'm going to make sure that either I or my colleague are able to get those questions answered to you. Feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to do like a private Zoom session. We can do it one-on-one. We can do it with us, the admissions counselor, and the other department that you need to talk to. So we're here to definitely help you through this process, and we're hoping that these kind of lunch series are helping to answer those questions up front as well. So again, June 1st is the deadline. We just had our early deposit sweepstakes announcement on yesterday, and so for those of you who did not win anything, we do have a second sweepstakes that is happening. So we are very, very happy to be able to bring that to you. And while we wind down here, I did want to share one screen here. Again, we started podcasts sorry, I'm just gonna try and multitask here, but so we did share the podcast here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Lead the Pack podcast. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts as well. Are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as well. So please go ahead and follow. Again, you can always ask questions on that, on any of those social medias. It is actually monitored by people like us, and so we'll make sure to get those questions answered to you. So again, Lead the Pack podcast is something that we've launched very recently, and we're very, very happy. It's hosted by our admissions counselor, Xavier Harvey. So please follow. But other than that, thank you so much for joining in. Next week, we will have Mike Shingle from Advising. He's going to talk a little bit about registering for courses and how to register and how advising is going to happen, and how do students know what types of classes to sign up for. And so we'll bring on Mike Shingle to talk next session. All the other sessions that have been scheduled have also been posted on our website. So feel free to just go ahead and register for those events. You don't have to wait for the emails from your counselors to register for those. We have Michael Birch-Pacey's from music. We also have Kim Garrett from Office of Accommodations and Accessibility. We also have Justin Hall from Outdoor Pursuits, and JC Whitehead from Social Sciences making some big announcements. So we highly recommend to go ahead and register ahead of time, but we'll continue to send those communications out to you guys. So thank you again so much, everybody. I hope this was helpful for you. Have a good rest of the day and enjoy your lunch, guys.